next episode of the Austin Bar Association's Council of First. I'm your host, Amanda Arriaga, First Latina Bar President. This podcast is made possible by the Texas Bar Foundation. In today's episode, we talk to Armin Salek, Executive Director of the Youth Justice Alliance. Armin is a graduate of the University of Texas, University of Houston Law Center, and received a master's in education policy from Harvard. In 2019, he received the Rather Prize for Education Innovation. In 2020, he was named the Austin ISD High School Teacher of the Year. And in 2021, he was named the Outstanding Young Lawyer of the Year by the Texas Young Lawyers Association. The Youth Justice Alliance originated as the Aikens Eagle Aid Clinic in Austin, Texas, which was the first high school legal aid clinic in the country. The Youth Justice Alliance provides fellowships for aspiring first-generation lawyers and offers financial and institutional support from high school to law school. By doing so, YJA is working towards a more inclusive legal profession. Some people have hopes of a more inclusive legal profession, but Armin is actually taking affirmative steps to make that happen. I'm so happy to have with us today, Armin Salek. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to start at the beginning. Why did you want to be a lawyer?
So I always try to figure out how to serve my community. And in college, I was in a sociology course, and I met this gentleman who was actually exonerated with the help of the Innocence Project. And I was in the midst of studying about, different data on how the race of both victims and alleged criminals impacted criminal outcomes. So my idea was that I'm going to law school to become a public defender, and that was the path until immigration law became my way.
So you did sort of a pivot going from public defender, thinking about immigration law, and then you were a high school teacher and became very successful as a high school teacher, being Teacher of the Year. And you were able to create this Eagle Aid Clinic, very clever, that turned into the Youth Justice Alliance. So tell us about the Youth Justice Alliance.
Absolutely. So we are a fellowship for aspiring first-gen lawyers, and the entire goal of our program, it is a 4-year program, is to break down the financial and institutional barriers to law school. So some of the things that we think about are the cost of the LSAT, having access to internships on the path to law school, getting that experience. We think about having mentors in your life that can help support you. And we also think about having peers that are in similar situations with similar goals. So our 4-year program, we invest in secondary legal education, and we build relationships with all of these young folks who are thinking about being lawyers in their communities. And then as seniors in high school, they apply to our program. And the real way we measure them is this: why do you want to be a lawyer? Why does the legal profession need your voice? And are you an aspiring first-gen lawyer? If you have answers to those that really demonstrate to us that you can make a meaningful change in your community by using the power of the law, by adding a law degree to your family, that's who we want in our cohort. So we're not measuring people based on GPA, SAT scores, admission to a 4-year university. We really want to take a chance on folks and help aspiring lawyers who may not take that next step to law school without the support. And what it looks like, our 4-year program, the first summer, we bring all of our fellows from around Texas here to Austin. They stay at a hotel together, and during the day, they learn family law, criminal law, property law, jury selection strategy, how to conduct a deposition. And, this is real law school level content. And they're taught by local practitioners or practitioners from Houston, Dallas that help us as well. And at night, they get a chance to connect with one another, and they're building up that cohort connection and watching law movies and going to escape rooms and grabbing dinner together and just really giving a chance for joy. The next summer, they get paid to shadow district court judges. The summer after that, they get paid to work at a legal service nonprofit. And finally, the 4th year, we pay $1,500 toward their LSAT course and help them apply to law school. So a lot of those barriers that stand in the way to law school for aspiring first-gen lawyers, we're trying to tackle those head on.
And so most people who are interested in doing what you're doing start with folks who are already lawyers or who are recently graduated. Why is it important for you that you are starting so much earlier with these kids?
It's critical because that's exactly why our legal profession is failing. We always wait until the 2nd or 3rd year of law school. When I think about legal diversity efforts, I think about a special scholarship, or I think about a special interview process for 2nd or 3rd year law students who have great GPAs, who have great records. I mean, these are students that are going to get a job paying, $200K next year, or have their run of the litter in terms of their next steps. These are success stories. So a lot of these, what we call diversity efforts in the legal profession, they're finding success stories instead of creating them. And our profession is kind of unique in that, and unique in the way that we wait and we wait and we wait and we allow a lot of brilliance and talent and passion to be filtered out. And then we pick and choose success stories instead of investing them in high school, in college, in law school applications. And that's why we're so far behind. That's why we're the least diverse profession in America. And that's why our communities don't have access to legal support in their language of choice. That's why when you go to a legal clinic, you have severe disparities in terms of demographics between service providers and service recipients. Those are all things that we can change as a profession if we choose to make that change.
Is YJA old enough that you have seen the cohort work so that the student has gone through law school and become a lawyer and is now a success story in the universe?
Not yet. So I graduated from law school in 2016, so we're not there yet with the YJA program. But I was also a high school law program at Aikens, as you mentioned earlier, for 3 years. And now I have students who are about to graduate from law school. I can't wait to go to their graduation, attending law school, getting ready to apply to law school. So we're almost there if you count Aikens in the process of learning about this program. In a matter of 5 years, I'll be able to say yes to that. I'll be able to introduce you to some amazing first gen lawyers who are having a serious impact in their community and giving access to their families to that law license, to that legal knowledge that completely shifts how you experience this country.
Yeah, it's great. You are growing an organization where your cohort is going to be the judges and the general counsels at the nonprofit organizations and at the big firms that are going to give these opportunities back to the future years.
Absolutely. And I have this big dream. We have students from all over Texas. So my big dream is that, in 10 years, the board of directors for the Texas Young Lawyers Association is going to be some of our fellows from Brownsville, from Del Rio, from San Antonio, Dallas, Irving, Fort Worth. And, that's the grand scheme.
Yeah, that's great. Got to start it soon.
Absolutely.
Do you think the Austin legal community currently provides enough support specifically for females and minorities? And if not, how can we improve it?
So first I'll say that Austin is doing better than most, but we are a part of a profession that is absolutely failing. And the way we need to adjust is by accepting that our diversity investments that wait until law school are not working. By then, so much talent and brilliance has already been filtered out, it's been kept out. And a lot of folks think that the folks that make it to law school are just the ones that work the hardest. And it's really not the case. Sometimes when you're in the legal community and you go to some of the events that celebrate our diversity programs and you're there with our success stories of the people that we do invest in that late in the process, you forget about all the people that aren't in the room. And having worked as a high school law teacher, getting to work with the Youth Justice Alliance in this pipeline program, I get to see all the talent that's there that we're not supporting, that we are losing, all the language skills we're losing, all the cultural competency that we're losing, all these students who have deep connections to some legal issue that they want to address, whether it be an immigration matter that impacted their family, evictions that impacted their family, some kind of consumer protection issues that impacted their family. It runs the gamut. They've dealt with all of these things and they want to be the difference in their community, but sometimes they can't take on an unpaid internship that might be prestigious because they have to put food on the table by working at a retailer, at a grocer, at a fast food chain, whatever it might be. Maybe they don't have access to a mentor that can help them take all those steps. Maybe they don't have access to the funds to take that LSAT course and they convince themselves that they're going to wait and wait. They're not getting any help from the legal profession and eventually we lose them. So, as a profession in Austin, in Texas, beyond, we need to decide that our legal diversity investments are failing. The data reflects that. For perspective, we always talk about women in STEM. Let's talk about women in STEM compared to underrepresented communities in the legal profession. For every two women in STEM professions, you would only need to add one so that the demographics match the general population. For Black and Hispanic attorneys, you would need to triple the representation of attorneys to reflect the general population. So we're not even close. We're not even in the same room as the representation of women in STEM. And part of the reason for that is that STEM, professional STEM industries are investing in elementary school, middle school, high school, college programs. They're not waiting until PhD and master's engineering programs and saying, hey, females with 3.5 GPAs, we encourage you to apply for the scholarship. That's not helping. That's not increasing the access for women in STEM. That's picking and choosing success stories and claiming credit for the people who succeeded despite our failures. So, For us, we really need to decide that if the data reflects that we're not making a difference in our demographics, if the data shows that what we've been doing for the past decades is not what we should be doing for the next 20 years, if the data shows that we lack language skills in our profession, if our data proves that we have an overrepresentation of the children of lawyers in our profession, which provides a very limited perspective on uh, the legal justice system in America, we need to make changes. And I hope we see a profession that is ready to say, you know what, we are willing to invest in middle school and high school. And, sometimes what I hear from attorneys and law firms is that, well, that that student might not become a lawyer. Exactly. That's the risk we take. When we're talking about STEM and technology investment in middle school, elementary, high school programs, we're not like, that 13-year-old might not be a scientist, so why would we invest in them? No, we're taking a chance. Investing in diversity means taking a risk and not going after somebody that's already a success story.
It's an interesting point that you bring up because you're right. There are, starting in high school age, really, there are different programs that it's not necessarily to help you become a lawyer, but that sort of would open your mind to that. So, high school is when you have girls' state and boys' state. High school is when for some high schools, there's a mock trial team. There's something called the We the People team where you're doing debates about the Constitution. It's very nerdy. I did that in high school. The National Hispanic Institute has programs that's very similar to Girl State and Boys State, and it's mock trial and legislative debates and things like that. But there is nothing, we don't talk about that in junior high. And I think there are some of us who would have been nerdy enough, we would have done mock trial or something similar in middle school.
Absolutely. So there are some programs, but is it the level of robust support as any other industry? Absolutely not. And the reason why YJ even started is because when I was a high school law teacher, I was frustrated because we had students participating in mock trial and moot court. We had students working in the Eagle Aid Clinic, working on actual legal cases. We had them getting some legal content curriculum. That was very robust for the high school level. But then what was the next step? I was selling, this dream, and it's like everybody's, dedicated to becoming a lawyer now, and then they convince themselves that they just can't afford that LSAT course. They can't take that unpaid internship. They don't really have any support systems after high school. So even if they did participate in those limited number of programs, well, what's next? You have answers in other industries. Why don't we have an answer there? Why do they have to take that journey from high school mock trial and that amazing moment where they get to argue in front of sometimes real judges and then take themselves all the way to law school and become a success story in law school to get that next step of support? That's the gap that Youth Justice Alliance is trying to fill, where we need a lot of help as an industry.
How can the audience support the Youth Justice Alliance?
There's a lot of ways. And I won't, first, I don't want to just talk about the Youth Justice Alliance. I want to talk about some systems change work because, we're a small organization. I hope we grow with the help of the Austin Bar Association, Austin legal community, Texas legal community. And I hope we get to a point where we are supporting 50, 100 aspiring first gen lawyers uh, take that next step. But the real work is in completely changing how our profession thinks about diversity investments. First thing we want to do is break down this idea that diversity programs or access programs, opportunity programs bring in less qualified applicants. That is a complete myth. These programs bring in more qualified applicants by reducing the financial institutional barriers to law school. So it's no longer a matter of who has access to the most funds, who has access to the most attorneys in their life. It's a matter of who's the most passionate, who's the most capable, who is the most who has the highest aptitude. This is truly trying to make it a merit based system. So that's part one. Part two is that right now the incentives are for law firms to wait until law school to invest because they're measured based on the number of attorneys from underrepresented communities at their firm. So there's no incentive for them to invest in high school and middle school. Why would they take a chance when they can just wait until law school to see who hasn't been filtered out and then pull them toward their firm? So we need to change those incentives. There's a couple of ways to do that. Through the Austin Bar Association, State Bar of Texas, we can celebrate efforts that invest in diversity early, whether it be through YJA, that Texas Youth and Government Mock Trial Moot Court program you spoke about, the Law Related Education Committee of the State Bar of Texas, the Just the Beginning program out of Chicago, all these programs that are investing way before law school, supporting them. We can change the incentives there. Another way we can change the incentives is by the associates, the partners at these big law firms. You are incredibly important to your law firm. They want to keep you and they want to keep you happy because you're their greatest asset. You're the one meeting with the clients, making money, and they want to keep you around. And if they know that you care about investing earlier in the pipeline, they will want to invest earlier in the pipeline. If you say, I want to see programs that support aspiring first gen lawyers in middle school, in high school, in early college, your firm will want to make those changes. So that's a big way that can help. Uh, Other big ways that can help is that I'm always looking for volunteers for those same moot court programs, those same mock trial programs, mentorship opportunities. Jump on those chances to speak with that student who may not believe that they deserve to be in a law school classroom. They don't deserve to be in a courtroom as an advocate. You can be the reason why they think, I can really do this. You can tell them, wow, you would be a great lawyer. That was a great objection. That was a great opening statement. If you're in that room having that conversation with them, you might be the reason why they take that next step. And as for our fellowship program, we're always looking for help connecting with aspiring first gen lawyers. So if you meet that young person who could really be a difference in their community, who's passionate about getting their voice out there and uh, serving their neighbors with legal support services, um, connect them with us. Maybe you can be the reason why we get to help that person from your community, from the Austin area. And in 10 years, there'll be that person on the TYLA board, the Austin Bar Association board, the State Bar of Texas committees, and we can start to see some real changes.
And you haven't mentioned money. Would money also help?
Money would help. Money would be a big help to our program. And the beauty of our program is that the money goes to the students. And what that money does is that it pays for those opportunities to shadow district court judges. The money pays for those opportunities to work at a legal service nonprofit, shadowing mentors, future peers. It pays for those LSAC courses. And it does also pay for their hotel and meals so they can come to Austin and get some of that legal curriculum as well. So money goes a long way. You can find information about donating at youthjusticalliance.org. You can find us on Instagram at YJ Alliance. And you can connect with me directly, Armin Salek, if you have any questions about our program, how we spend that money, and how we take care of our fellows.
I'll put all of that information in the podcast notes as well so that the audience can click on it directly. One thing you said that I've never thought of before, but it's a great way to explain why they should volunteer is, grown up lawyers, law firm lawyers, busy people, and then they get a request and barcode that says, do you want to judge a high school mock trial? And some folks would be like, no, I'm busy and I worked all week and I have a family and I want to go home. But if what we start calling it is, do you want to invest in diversity of the legal profession at the ground floor? I think that that might help increase those numbers
I think
because
so.
because I've never heard of the spin that way, but that makes a lot of sense as to why you're doing what you're doing. It's not just high school mock trial anymore.
No, it's the best thing we do at the high school level in the pipeline to the legal profession. And the students that go through these programs, their understanding of the rules of evidence, their understanding of trial procedure is incredible. And I mean it when I say that some of these high school teams in Texas, especially, we have a great high school mock trial competition. They could compete at the law school level with a lot of programs. They are truly that gifted, and their understanding of the rules of evidence, the way they object, the way they deliver their openings and closings, it will blow you away. And I think not just are you inspiring the next generation of lawyers, I think it'll inspire you. Like just understanding how passionate these students are about being in the seat that you are in today, about being like you. The way they work on these cases with fake clients would impress a lot of folks who work on cases with real clients. It's that level of dedication, and you're right. That is how we should pitch it. Do you want to be the reason why this student doesn't give up on their dreams of being a legal advocate in their community? Then come on through YMCA Youth and Government Program. Join us as a moot court or mock trial evaluator.
Yeah, the next time we put that somewhere in the newsletter and barcode or something, we'll write it that way. Because I think that folks do want to jump on because they care diversity initiatives and they don't always know how to do that. And this could be a tangible way. They do something good for the student, they do something that makes them feel good, and it keeps the cycle of life going.
And 3 hours of CLE credit.
Oh, we should definitely put that in the pitch as well.
We'll add that on top.
Okay. So besides YJA, what organizations have meant the most to you professionally or personally?
So I want to give a big shout out to the University of Houston Street Law Program. And It was the first year they had the street law program at UH when I was a 3L. So I had always dreamed about being a part of this program because my goal before law school was to be a teacher or a lawyer. So I found out that we were finally going to have street law my 3L year. It's this course where you're basically taught how to teach law at the high school level. And I went to the High School for Law and Justice in Houston ISD and absolutely fell in love with the act of teaching. I never thought I could make it in a classroom. I thought I was way too boring. Real teachers are so much more engaging and exciting than I am, but the students were incredible. And the passion that they had for the issues that we were covering were because they were so proximate to those same issues. I was learning about family law from my students because they had gone through the process. They knew how and when a child could give their preference in a family court case when custody is being decided. They knew how it works when you're trying to decide alimony or issues of child support because they had been there. When we were talking about immigration law, there were so many personal stories that added to the depth of our classroom experience. When we're talking about criminal justice issues, we had students who were passionate about helping out their family members who were incarcerated. And that's that kind of helped me realize the voices that were missing because I compared that to my law school class, who I love, and I loved my law school, but we had limited perspectives because of the folks that we filter out. There was such a gap between the students that I saw at the High School for Law and Justice who were brilliant, who were incredible, who deserved to be in a law school classroom. But I knew there was such a long journey for them, and all I was providing was a once a week classroom experience. But that program was what inspired me to become a teacher and go down this long path that eventually led to the Youth Justice Alliance. And if I could, another way attorneys could help, convince your law school to have a street law program where those law students are taught in a classroom how to go to their community and teach high school students about criminal justice, consumer protection laws, eviction defense protections, immigrant rights, employee rights, student rights, disability rights, and so much more. Every law school in Texas should have that class. And unfortunately, I think UH is still the only one that does. So I think that's another way to invest in access, opportunity, and diversity, spreading those street law programs. Another program that we've talked about is the Youth and Government program through the YMCA. Not only do they provide that amazing service through their mock trial and moot court programs, but they actually fight to make it as affordable or free for students across Texas. When I was teaching at Aikens, they made sure that the program was free for all of my students. And that meant that participating in this program didn't depend on financial access of these students and what they were going through at home, whether they were some of my more affluent students or some of my students who were just trying to meet their basic needs. And that was so important to me. So if you can also go support the Youth and Government program, not only as an evaluator, but also as a contributor. Support that program that is investing in our future lawyers. I also want to mention one other program that I talked about earlier, just the beginning out of Chicago, is another amazing program that is similar to ours that is also investing in the pipeline. And we want to see other organizations like ours succeed as well. We don't really see this as a Youth Justice Alliance mission. This is a really systems change level work where we need a whole lot of bar associations, a whole lot of attorneys, a whole lot of law firms, and a whole lot of nonprofits working together to change the dynamics of the pipeline to the profession.
So just little things.
Just little
Just
things,
little problems to solve.
easy problems.
Well, we talked about this a little bit already, but it's the fall of 2023. Do you think that Austin is on the right path to increasing diversity in the legal profession?
I want to end on a positive note
This is not the
because
last question.
perfect. Then we can get there. I want to say that I am very proud of the legal profession and practices that we are going to have in 2024. In 2024, we are going to see a legal profession that sees legal diversity investments as investments in pre-law, in students that are just trying to figure out law school, maybe in college, in high school, in middle school. That's where the real diversity investments happen. And I see an Austin Bar Association that is very willing to dedicate itself to investing in our community and will change to reflect that need. Because right now, the Austin Bar Association is such a great supporter of Youth Justice Alliance. And the Law Related Education Committee does show up to the YMCA in good numbers, but there's so much more that we can do. We can have an awesome bar association that invests heavily in pre-law scholarships, helps people afford the LSAT to become those success stories that maybe then we can support with our fellowship programs that invest in law school success stories. So I'm very hopeful that the Austin Bar Association can be a model for what it looks like to really engage in legal diversity. I think the Austin Bar Association can start measuring not just the diversity of our biggest firms through the diversity report cards, but starting to measure the diversity of Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid, measure the diversity of the Attorney General's office, the County Attorney's office, City Attorney's office, and all these organizations, immigration firms, immigration nonprofits that are so proximate to our communities. Because we always talk about it's so important for folks to see themselves in the roles that they want to achieve. But we only measure the diversity of our largest firms. Our students, our aspiring lawyers, our folks in the community aren't going to Smith and Smith Big Law for M&A help. They're going to law offices to help with their basic needs. In our community, our profession is still not able to meet those needs. So we do need to understand that diversity isn't just about the big firms. It's about our profession as a whole, and it's about those organizations that work on those most basic needs of our community.
Well, we talked about this a little bit before we started. The diversity report card is run by the different sister organizations to the Austin Bar, but I will definitely tell them to listen to this episode so that they can listen to your great ideas about how to continue this report card and keep making it relevant.
Absolutely. And it can be. And if we measure the diversity of our profession as a whole, it won't just be an incentive for our larger firms to shift our underrepresented communities toward their firms while abandoning some of the other organizations in town. It'll be truly a collective effort to change the overall demographics of our profession, change the language skills of our profession, and change the perspectives in our profession.
So, shifting from we've been talking about aspiring lawyers to current lawyers, what advice would you give to lawyers who want to get involved in the Austin legal community but don't know how?
So if you want to get involved in the Austin legal community, first of all, Awesome Bar, even beyond our conversation today, is just an amazing organization. I will say Austin Leadership Academy did an amazing job supporting us with a casino night fundraiser. That was just a great experience for all of us. Awesome Bar Association, Law Related Education Committee, and their support for the Youth Justice Alliance. And there's so much good work happening. Jump on board. It's a great team, great folks. Join us for the next charity run, join us for the next wellness retreat, and get involved because as soon as you're part of this organization, you will have access to so many of the local legal leaders who are dedicated to supporting the next generation, who are dedicated to providing free legal support, who are dedicated to volunteering in the community. And you'll pretty quickly be wrapped up in it, as I was about 2 years ago. And now I have great relationships around the Austin Bar Association and relationships that will last well beyond my time in Austin Lawyers Association, eventually to the big bar as well.
What's next for you?
Next for me is this: the Youth Justice Alliance is going to keep growing, and we're going to do a better job of reaching out across the state of Texas. We're going to fundraise and we're going to help support more aspiring attorneys across Texas. And we're hopefully going to serve as a model for how we can invest in meaningful changes in the demographics of our profession beyond Texas and do some of that systems change work. So, my only job right now is to make sure that the Youth Justice Alliance succeeds. We support our fellows effectively, and we do a good job of providing opportunities for the next cohort of aspiring first gen lawyers.
Well, I really hope that our audience supports you, supports those students, supports those future lawyers, supports that diversity, and they can do it with their feet or their time or their money.
Absolutely. We would love any of that.
Thank you so much for being here today with us. I think that people are going to love this conversation, and I hope this does a lot for the Youth Justice Alliance.
Thank you very much for having me.
We'll see y'all next time. Thank you.